So it's great to welcome on friend of the show, Tony Luetkemeyer, Missouri State Senator from Platte and Buchanan counties, joining us on KCMO. And we're having Tony on this morning because there is a belief that former KCPD Detective Eric DeValkenair might get some type of either a commuted sentence, maybe a full pardon from Governor Mike Parson here in the weeks ahead. It's been alluded to. It's been suggested. Nobody knows exactly what is going to happen, but that case continues to be made around the region. And Tony, good morning. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. What is your pitch? You have a good relationship, obviously, with the governor, and I know this is an issue that's been very important to you.
Yeah, I mean, I've had conversations with the governor about this issue. You know, Governor Parson is a former elected county sheriff. He knows firsthand what it is like to be a law enforcement officer, and he knows that our officers have to make split-second decisions on a daily basis, and those are life or death decisions. I'm a little disappointed that it's taken as long as it has. I know this has been really hard on Eric's family, and my prayers are certainly with them, and I'm really hopeful that Governor Parson is going to issue a pardon before the upcoming holidays.
And if not, of course, we know that Governor-elect Mike Kehoe has been very clear about, what he would do if DeValkenair is still imprisoned by the time he gets into office next month. What have your conversations been like with Governor-elect Kehoe in recent weeks, and, what role he may end up having to play in this whole deal?
Yeah, well, I mean, I hope it doesn't get to that point. But, I mean, as you mentioned, Governor-elect Kehoe has stated multiple times publicly, including on your show, that he will pardon Eric on day one once he's inaugurated. And I'm confident that Governor-elect Kehoe will correct this miscarriage of justice when he's in office, if it hasn't already been corrected before he gets there.
Tony Luetkemeyer is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. So on that front, I mean, when you talk to men and women in the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, and how this case in particular has impacted their ability and willingness to do their jobs, do proactive policing, knowing full well what happened to Eric DeValkenair, what is the sense that you get from those men and women who understandably are not going to be out speaking publicly about this because they feel like, and frankly, they can't?
Well, I'm going to broaden it beyond police officers just in our own region in Kansas City and say this statement for law enforcement statewide. I mean, this is a case that has gotten a lot of publicity around the state of Missouri. It's well known in law enforcement circles. And what I'm hearing from law enforcement officers is that it has a chilling effect on their ability to do their job. I mean, the reality is when you have progressive prosecutors like Gene Peters Baker that are going out targeting police officers, that message gets out. We used to have the same problem over in St. Louis whenever Kim Gardner was in office. And when the men and women in law enforcement who are putting their lives on the line every day to do a job, frankly, for not that much pay, are also told that there are these progressive prosecutors that are out there that have a target on their back, it makes it very difficult for them to be able to do their job and to do it effectively. And of course, the real victims of all that is the general public, because we're not kept safe then.
Now, what about the fact that Gene Peters Baker, of course, is leaving office next month? There is a new prosecutor, Melissa Johnson, coming in Jackson County. I know that's obviously not a county that you represent, but you represent a portion of Kansas City, Missouri. So these folks will be impacted by that new prosecutor. What is your level of confidence in her and your hope and expectations for her as she takes over that position?
Well, I don't know her that well, so I'm hopefully going to get to know her a little bit better as the months move on and she's sworn into office. My hope for any prosecutor, whether it's the Jackson County prosecutor or a prosecutor anywhere else in our state, is that they're going to read, interpret, and enforce the laws as they're written. We do not need the job of a prosecutor is not to make policy. They're not there to decide what crimes they don't think are crimes. That is a job for the legislature. It's not their job to decide what they think is a just sentence and whether, somebody has been treated unfairly. Their job is to enforce the sentences that are on the books in the Missouri Criminal Code. And so my hope for any prosecutor, whether it would be the Jackson County prosecutor or the prosecutors in the two counties that I represent, is that they would enforce the law as it is written by the General Assembly, which are the people's representatives.
So, Tony, what about, as we get set for next month, and obviously a new governor's coming in and people are wondering how that's going to make Missouri look different, what it's going to mean for the legislature. as you move ahead, and for people that don't know, tell, of course, this audience what your new role is going to be in the state Senate coming up next month, how and what goals you have as you guys get going in January.
So I was elected last month as the majority floor leader of the Missouri Senate by my Republican colleagues. And what that means is I basically will oversee all floor activity in the Missouri Senate, including what bills get to the floor, how much time is given in order to pass that legislation. And so we'll play a pretty significant role in what legislation ultimately gets to the governor's desk at the end of the legislative session. In terms of goals for me, I've told everybody the number one goal for me is Senate functionality, because until you have that, until you achieve that, you can't really get the big, bold, conservative ideas done that we were all elected to get done. I don't think it's a secret that we've had a little bit of dysfunction in the Missouri Senate over the last few years. What my commitment has been to all of my Republican colleagues is to bring us together and to focus on, teamwork and getting the things done that I know we all want to get done, our shared conservative priorities. And so that's priority number one. Priority number two, I look forward to working with the governor. He's outlined an agenda of things that I'm very supportive of. Chief among them is public safety. He realizes that crime is a major issue in both St. Louis and Kansas City. And he's outlined a proposal to, among other things, bring the St. Louis Police Department under state control, similar to what we have in Kansas City. I believe that is the right move for St. Louis. I think having a progressive mayor in charge of a large police department is the wrong way to go for public safety, and so I'm very supportive of that measure that's been proposed by the governor. The governor has also talked about wanting to decrease or eliminate entirely the state income tax. That's something that a lot of our friends like Tennessee have done in the Midwest. I think it's a great way to promote the economy in Missouri, and so I look forward to working with the governor on that as well.
Oh, obviously, those are some great initiatives. And just what do you think, with you, of course, being a floor majority leader, and it's expected that John Patterson at Elise Summit is going to be the next speaker on the House side of things. It seems like, for the first time in a long time at least, more of the political power in Jeff City is moving to the Kansas City side of the state. Is that a fair assessment? And if so, what do you attribute that to?
Certainly, I think it's a fair assessment. Those are, two of the top leadership positions in the General Assembly. In terms of what I attribute that to, I don't know. It may just be coincidence that Representative Patterson and I both happen to be from the Kansas City area. I don't remember a time in my lifetime where the Speaker of the House and the majority floor leader of the Senate have been both from Kansas City. That would be news to me. I know we've had prior majority floor leaders of the Senate who have been from the western side of the state before, but I don't think that has ever happened at the same time. I think it's a good thing for Kansas City. We've got the World Cup in 2026, a lot of great things going on the western side of the state, and I certainly look forward to partnering with my friend John Patterson to get some good things done for our region.
Speaking of good things, what role do you see the state potentially playing, if any, when it comes to keeping the Chiefs and the Royals, maybe not just in Kansas City, Missouri proper, but certainly in the state of Missouri?
So I think it's a little hard to say right now, and the reason I say that is because we really don't know what the Royals are going to do at the moment, and depending on locations that are selected by the Royals could have a dramatic impact that conversation looks like. There is, of course, a location in North Kansas City that has been proposed. That location, as I understand it, does not require a state general revenue ask, meaning there would be no state taxpayer dollars that would go to fund that particular location. Obviously, that makes the broader conversation a lot less complicated in Jefferson City if that's the case. In terms of the Chiefs, my hope is they may be able to go back to Jackson County voters if ultimately the Royals leave Jackson County and be able to pursue a tax with just the Chiefs being a part of that. And if so, I think that's a very different conversation. Maybe the taxpayers of Jackson County look at that issue very differently. And so that's a long way of saying I think we're a ways away from knowing, what, if any, involvement the state is going to have in that process, because a lot of this is a local issue that still needs to be sorted out by Jackson County, Clay County, and others in the region.
All right, there you go. Tony Luetkemeyer. We'll be talking, I'm sure, plenty more coming up next month once you guys get to work down there in Jeff City. We appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Pete.